welcome to Eating It Up. Well, today I'm going to show you how to make slow cooker pot roast. This is perfect to make for this time of year because it feeds a lot of people and it's really comforting. It's kind of what we need when it's nice and cold outside. So these are the ingredients you're going to need. I have here a little over 1.5 pounds of beef chuck shoulder roast. Sometimes in the supermarket, they'll even label it pot roast or shoulder roast, English roast, just a big chunk of beef. You're gonna need some russet potatoes, celery, carrots. I'm gonna need some yellow onion, Worcestershire sauce. I have black pepper, salt, bay leaves. I have some beef bouillon, flour, and you're gonna need some water for the slow cooker also. So to get this recipe started, what you want to do is you want to chop all of your vegetables, and you want to chop your vegetables pretty big because this is going to be in the slow cooker for a pretty long time depending on what you set yours to. I'm going to put mine on high today, but you can also put this on low. Let's say if you're going to put this in the morning and have it cooking all day, so when you get home from work it's ready. It's a perfect recipe for that. So depending on what setting you put your slow cooker in, it'll take longer. But regardless, you want to chop most of your vegetables, not so small because they'll disintegrate. So you're just gonna cut your potato in half. And then I like to quarter the potato, cut each half in half. And then we'll just cut the rest again in half. So you have that. And then your celery stalk, when you're working with celery, you want to go ahead and grab like a wet paper towel and kind of run it along the stalk of celery because celery grows really tightly together. So when you kind of start peeling it apart, you can find dirt in the celery and nobody wants to eat dirt. So just go ahead and like with a wet paper towel, take it off. Most of the time it's pretty clean. So with the celery, you just want to take a little bit off the ends because it's kind of dry. Like that. And leave the celery leaves on. They're edible and they taste just like celery and they're going to be pretty much mush by the time it's done anyways. So I just cut it in half and cut pretty big chunks. I love pot roast, especially with mashed potatoes or white rice. It's like perfect, so like it soaks up the sauce. So the yellow onion, you want to cut off this end here, not the root end, but the top end off. And then you want to leave this root end on because this will actually help keep all the layers together so that when you're cutting it, it doesn't fall apart. It makes it a little easier. So whenever you could leave it on, leave it on. So what you want to do is you want to run your knife through the middle of that so that both ends have a little bit of the root end. It'll keep the onion together. So then from there, what you do is you just peel this whole first layer. Just take the whole first layer off. It's kind of dingy sometimes. So just take off the whole first layer. So for the onion, I'm going to cut each half in thirds. And again, just big chunks. So now that all the vegetables are cut, we're going to go ahead and start working with the beef. So what you want to do with this, you want to salt this pretty liberally since it's such a big piece of meat. You want to salt it pretty heavy. Don't be afraid of the salt in this case. And of course, seasoning is always to taste. What might be good for me might be too salty for you. So you can always just add a little bit and you can add more later. So I have some kosher salt here, which is pretty thick and I like it for that reason. It's not as strong as like iodized salt, so I prefer it. So you want to just salt all sides of your meat and you kind of want to press it in. And then black pepper. I love black pepper and I'm going to add a pretty heavy amount because this amount of beef can take it. I love how that smells. So go ahead and flip it over. same. Remember, don't be afraid of the salt because you're not only seasoning the beef, you have vegetables, you have water. All of that stuff needs to taste good. So we're gonna add pepper, and again, press those seasonings into the meat. Your meat should look like that, like a nice thick layer of seasoning. So when we sear it, creates a nice crust of the seasoning. It's gonna be so good. So the next step, you might be wondering why I have flour here. So what the flour is gonna do, it's gonna help thicken the sauce in the slow cooker as it cooks. But the potatoes are gonna do the same thing also, which is why I love to add potatoes to it so that it helps create a thick sauce. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually coat the beef in the flour, kind of like this thin layer all around it. So you just wanna grab it and kind of press that flour into it. Just flip it over, see, like that. And then any of the excess, you can kind of just take it off, just like that. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna sear the meat in the pan before we put it in the slow cooker. So now we're ready to sear our beef. And the reason why we're gonna do this is to get a little bit of color on it because it's not really gonna happen in the slow cooker. So I have a pan here on about medium high. You want it to be pretty hot so that you can get a lot of color. And if you can, try to get a pan with some high sides. So we're gonna go ahead and drizzle some oil in there. Get a good bit in there. And you wanna work with something like vegetable oil or canola, not olive oil, because it doesn't have a really high smoke point. So it's gonna start to burn pretty fast. So from here, we just grab our beef and we're gonna put it in there. Try to lay it there slowly so you don't burn yourself. And that's what you want it here. You want it to sizzle. I'm actually gonna put the flame up even more. So now you want that to sear until it gets brown. It'll probably be like maybe 3-4 minutes on each side. So at this point, we're ready to flip it over. It's been about 4 minutes. So just flip your beef over. Oh yeah. So that's what you want to see. You want to see all that good brownness on there. That's what you want to see. So we're gonna let this side go now for about, again, 3-4 minutes. Okay, so the beef has been in there another 3-4 minutes. So now we're ready to transfer it to the sleeve of the slow cooker. We're gonna put that in there. And what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna throw in our carrot, celery, and onion in here so that they pick up all the good brown stuff that the beef left behind. It's gonna give them some nice color. You wanna just get those in there, stir them around. And you kind of want to scrape your pan to release all of the bits that the beef leaves behind. That's a lot of flavor. And you want to go ahead and scrape that off. Okay. So we're going to season our vegetables with some salt. And just cook them here for another 4 minutes. So I went ahead and added the carrot, celery, and onion to the insert with the beef inside already. And now we're ready to just add everything else and it's gonna come together. So we're gonna add in the potatoes. I have here 4 cups of water. You just want enough to cover the beef. Add that in there. Our Worcestershire sauce. Our beef bouillon. And our 2 bay leaves. So you want to get that in there and you just want to mix everything just to incorporate the beef bouillon and the Worcestershire sauce. It looks so good already and it smells good. So I'm excited. I can't wait to try it. Okay, so now we're just going to put this in the slow cooker and we're going to put it on high for about 3-4 hours. In that time frame, I'll go ahead and check it and we'll be back. So our pot roast finished cooking. I had it on high for 6 hours and it smells delicious. Halfway through, I stirred it and then I flipped over the meat just so it would cook really evenly. and then I left it on warm because I wasn't ready for it. But now it's absolutely like delicious. I've already tried it. The seasoning is good, and the meat is like falling apart. Look at that, just with my fingers. So the sauce is kind of thin. I want it a lot thicker. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna thicken it up ourselves. So what I have here is some butter and some flour. We're gonna make a roux. And a roux is equal parts butter or any other kind of fat and flour. And you use that to thicken up liquids, such like this one. So we're gonna go ahead and melt the butter. Now that the butter is completely melted, we're gonna add in our flour. And by the way, a roux is always equal parts fat and flour. So we're gonna whisk that until we get no more lumps, and it should look like this. Kind of yellow looking. If you see any lumps, you can go ahead and break them up. But that's what it looks like. So now we're gonna go ahead and take some of our stock, and we're gonna add it to our roux, and it's gonna thicken it up really nicely. So our gravy thickened up nicely. Now it's like a nice gravy consistency. You want to let that cook for about 5 minutes on the stove. The roux won't activate or it won't start to thicken up the liquid until it comes up to a boil. So you have to let it come up to a boil and then let it boil for like 5 minutes. And I used about 3 cups of the liquid. You don't need all the liquid that this is going to give off. You just need it to cook the meat. So now we're going to go ahead and transfer it, and it's like, it's so soft. Look at it. Yes. Like falling apart. And this will easily serve like 4 people nicely. So now we're going to take our gravy. It smells so good. And we're just going to pour that all over. Yes, yes. Look at that. You can serve this on the side so people can add more. Let's try it. It just, look at this. It's like, you don't even need a knife. Yum. It tastes so good. It tastes very traditional, and I can taste the Worcestershire sauce. I love Worcestershire sauce. It makes beef taste like beefier. Go ahead and give this recipe a try. The written recipe will be on my website, eatingitupblog.com, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.